I just got back from PAX East and played some neat stuff, so let's talk about it.
But Mr. Cryptid, what is PAX East?
Well, I'm glad you asked, my own voice with a lower pitch. PAX East is an annual gaming convention where all sorts of developers set up booths and show off their upcoming games. There's also an amazing amount of expensive merchandise and $7 hot dogs. Now let's talk about what I played. I've mentioned this before, but I have weird and inconsistent taste when it comes to video games, so what I played and what I'm excited about are probably unlike what other people are. Also, I'll be listing these games in order of what I'm most excited about. So let's go! Watam is an upcoming game by the creator of Katamari Damacy. You know, this game. Much like Katamari, Watam is pleasantly weird and unique. It seems the premise is that you play as the mayor of some abandoned place and you try to do all sorts of weird actions and combinations of actions to populate the world with friends, and all the friends are just mundane objects with faces. It reminded me of Little Alchemy, but with more in-depth gameplay and puzzle solving, and the sound design was very lively and enjoyable. Honestly, I don't have much to say about this game since the demo I played bugged out and crashed after a few minutes, but it seems enjoyably wholesome and it's probably a lot of fun to play with a friend. I'm looking forward to the full release. Detroit Become Human is one of those this is basically a movie type of games, which is a genre I'm a big fan of. It's from the mind behind Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, which I've honestly never actually played, but I've watched entire playthroughs of both games. I found the overall stories of those games to be a bit flawed, but just the concept behind each was amazing, especially Beyond Two Souls. From what I've seen, Detroit may be great at everything and topped both of those previous games. I don't have a full grasp of the story, but it seems like the game is all about human-like androids becoming self-aware and rebelling against humans since humans have a prejudice against them. I have a soft spot for stories focusing on emotionless characters learning emotion, so this could shape up to be real good, especially with the choice mechanic. Being a movie game, there isn't much actual gameplay, but there are some interesting additions to the formula, like you investigate crime scenes and watch digital recreations of the events, and there's a constantly changing probability meter that shows how likely it is you'll succeed or fail. I'd assume the probability meter is actually kind of arbitrary, but it's an interesting addition and will likely keep a constant feeling of suspense throughout the game. It's a good display to let you know if you're doing the wrong things. There's also a neat timeline visual after important scenes that displays all the possible outcomes and ways to achieve them, which is cool for replay value. I've only seen visual novels do that. From the demo, the only negative points I have are the controls and visual indications. It's common for these types of games to control very stiff, but Telltale games bypass that by letting you control a cursor instead of the actual character. But in Detroit, it seems like you're stuck navigating the stiff character. Also, I found it a bit unclear what objects I could interact with and what things I was actually supposed to interact with to progress the story. I'm also not a fan of having to use the right stick to simulate all the arm movements and stuff. It's a weird opinion, but I think the movement should be more automated so that confusion about the controls doesn't get in the way of the action. But aside from that, the game seems pretty awesome. In the full version, I think the story will have you control several different characters, so hopefully it doesn't get too overly complicated. And I'm sure you can see from this footage that visually this game is incredible. It doesn't quite look exactly like real life, but still very impressive and immersive. Also in the demo, there were a lot of cool camera angles, and the sound design was great to the point where I almost want to play the full game with headphones on. So this is a game I wasn't entirely interested in at first, but getting a closer look at PAX completely sold me. I am incredibly excited for Super Meat Boy Forever. The original game is one of my favorites of all time and introduced me to so much. The game and the story behind its creation inspired and affected me more so than any other video game that I've ever played. I could talk about the original and its importance to me for hours, but let's save that for another time. Super Meat Boy Forever is a sequel to the original Tough as Nails platformer, but with a new twist that's surprisingly really fun. Unlike before, the game is now an auto runner, meaning the characters run on their own and all you do is time jumps and attacks. You'd think gameplay like this would only work in something like the Impossible game, but it translates to Meat Boy amazingly. The controls, even though there isn't much to them, are just as great as they were in the original. The weight feels perfect, and if you mess up, it's your fault, not the game's. I usually hate difficult games, but the beauty of Meat Boy is that it trains you through failure. The more you die, the more you learn, and it may be frustrating, but it's in no way tedious. Since it's an auto runner, the timing is very rhythmic, so it's incredibly satisfying to play. I could easily see a player of any skill level getting addicted to this game, and being capable of completing it if they don't give up. Also, each level is much unlike the last. Meat Boy Forever has surprising variety despite having simple and straightforward gameplay, and I can't wait to fall in love with this cube of meat all over again. And that's all I got to play at PAX. But also, that's pretty much all I wanted to play at PAX. The real beauty of video games is that there are so many. These three might not match your taste, but they match mine. There are games for everyone, and conventions like PAX really remind you of that. So let me know what some of your favorite games are and what upcoming games you're looking forward to. Thanks for watching! The weight feels perfect, and if you mess up, it's not your fault, it's the game's. Wait.